why we don't subscribe to the thought that our thinking is what creates our destiny. Our destiny is not handed over by someone to us. So, we will see, we will get into section 4 today in our session. This got the whole thing. Yeah. So in the last session, we were talking about there is a framework by which the thoughts get adjusted based on the collective thought, the circumstances, and the timing of the 4 factors which enable the exteriorization of a thought. What do we mean by exteriorization? We have a thought that, let us say, there was an excellent example we were talking about. Chitra man wanted to go to a particular place and probably do some shopping. No audio. Is everyone able to hear?
I can hear.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
then
Yes, sir.
maybe, yeah. So this, she was desire of going and parking her car at probably a shopping mall or something like that. But her experience had been that every time she would go, she would be told, you cannot park your car here. Or this place, there is no parking space. So she was trying to refine that and find out why. And we also have the other side of the spectrum where whenever we go, we will always find a parking space. Right? Both kind of experiences we go. The thinking and destiny, the way it defines is for anything to manifest, that is, anything to exteriorize, there are 4 elements. There are 4 parameters which are very important. First is the thought. Okay? Along with the thought, there are 3 very critical parameters that play a role. There is the need for, there is a purpose behind that thought. There is a timing associated with that thought. And 4th is the there is a place where that is going to happen. Who was that? Can't join, no audio, problem with the Zoom app. So,
Go on mute. Your from, I guess the background music is just because from your side.
there is no background music.
I mean to say kids are playing and they are making noises, no?
Acha, okay. Okay. So, the 4th one is this. At the conjunction of the time, the place, and the purpose, a thought that has got issue will start manifesting. It is not that I intentionally gave a thought out or something like that. एक बार thought निकल गया or these other parameters are in conjunction with it, it will happen. That is the definition of the thought and that is the pathway for the thought to come into reality. Okay. So, having said that, now let us see how do we, what is this diagram? Yeah. Right. So, now we are talking about, we spoke about God, etc., etc., our faith, and we have created such a God. This God, we are afraid of saying that the wrath of God, the destiny of humanity, and the innate faith in justice. We are going to talk about the thought, the objection, and why we accept or we reject the thought being associated with destiny. What happens to thoughts not adjusted in a lifetime? So there is another parameter that I forgot to mention when I said there is a purpose. This purpose needs to get balanced because once a thought has got issue, right? The balancing of that thought, making it exteriorized, happens to be the responsibility of the person who has issued the thought. That means एक विचार निकाला, वो विचार को क्या बोलते हैं, वो बैलेंस होना जरूरी है. And that balancing happens because of the exteriorization. In the process, that balancing happens. The event occurs and so on. Right. So now let us look at when it comes to thoughts that have not got adjusted. What happens to thoughts not adjusted within a lifetime? Okay. The thoughts of one life which have not been adjusted are carried over by the doer to the next life and next, and from one civilization to another until they are adjusted. This is the law of destiny. Spelling mistake. Anyway, the law of destiny as we understand. Families, tribes, cities, nations, civilization, and the whole of humanity have their destiny. Sources of the feeling of assurances that justice rules the world, we get that from one of the sources from which such a feeling comes or such a thought occurs or such an experience occurs is the presence of destiny of humanity. Or the other source is the idea of justice, which is inherent in the doer of every human. And because of it, man fears the wrath of God and asks for mercy. Right? So, now what is happening to the thought that he has issued? If it comes through, he starts getting other type of feelings like your guilt or an experience which is unpleasant, etc. And he starts bringing in an element that he has created, whom he feels he can subscribe his weakness to such a person, and through that weakness, he can say, "Oh God, forgive me, I made a mistake." And he feels that he will get absolved of such a thought. Right? So basically, this is taking us to how anything that is unbalanced, we start saying, oh God, please take care of it. And he starts subscribing to a fear in God, which he thinks will. But whereas the wrath and mercy of God, let us see what is the wrath. The wrath of God is the accumulation of wrong actions, which, like Nemesis, pursues and is ready to overtake as soon as the conditions are right. The feeling of the destiny of humanity is shared by all its members. It causes mankind to try to propitiate some unseen being and is made one of the foundations of a religion. So now, see what is happening. Man लीजिए, a thought has got issue, and it is certainly, see, as the theory of law of thought as destiny very clearly states that once a thought is issued, and at the conjunction of the other three parameters, it is bound to manifest, exteriorize, and get balanced. Right? Now, let us say a thought has come to us and it has not got balanced. Right? We start saying, अरे वो पुजारी से पता कर लेते हैं, इसका कुछ जप शप करके, can I come out of it? All these kind of thoughts are also because of the fear of God. And at the same time, one second, this call I cannot avoid. So we start applying our thought negatively in terms of thinking that if I go to a God, the God will absolve me, or the God is going to punish me because of bringing out such a thought. Okay. So let us say on the mercy side, the mercy which man seeks is likewise a source of religion. He seeks it so that he may have his just deserts removed, okay, or his tough times removed, even though removal is impossible. But the pressure of one's thoughts towards exteriorization may be held back for a time until the suppliant for mercy is able to meet the exteriorizations of his thought. So this is a temporary phenomena, right? Mercy is asked by those who feel themselves too weak or too fearful or too selfish to let the law be fulfilled. So basically, all we are trying to say here is that once a thought comes out, come what may, if it is the conjunction of the additional three parameters, you go to God, you try to do whatever you want, it is not going to manifest. Is not correct. It is definitely going to get balanced out. That is what destiny is. We need to be very clear on that perspective. Right? Jagdish sir, anything to add in this?
I don't have to add, but if you permit me, it's a very interesting thing. Eric, in a different context, Eric Fromm brings the same factor and says why we have made God masculine. The point is this is the kind of fatherly love, right? You look up or see when you are a child, you're only looking at the mother because she's on. But as you grow up, you realize the father who is sustaining you, so the family,
Right.
and you better. So the father can either scold you, wrath, or forgive you, mercy. And he says that is how this whole concept of masculinity God has come. It's a very interesting way of putting it. I just was reminded of that.
That's a very good point. And the way Percival talks about the same thing is depending upon the nature of our desire. Nature of our desire, right? We create gods with that kind of powers. So when it is the dominance of male, we create the male gods, and likewise where the dominance of females characteristics is seen, we create accordingly, we create a female god.
Right.
That's a very interesting connotation. And how we believe in that particular god.
In a different context, but it's the same.
Yeah, no. But the point is a very valid point. One is that he has the power, he will take care. And she has the power, so she will take care. That kind of what you call, that kind of a sentiment is attached to the thought process of the people. So basically, actually I was reading about I was attending another book club where we were doing Newton's life after death. And what we are reading here and what he describes there as the experience of people who have come for the hypnotherapy, right? If you put them side by side, you get the same conclusion of what thinking and destiny is talking about thoughts. Only thing is they are realizing only during the regressions that yes, it was something from the past that is coming and manifesting now.
Correct.
Okay, so we are seeing that adjustment, if it is not adjusted, there is nothing like my bach gaya. There is nothing like ha, chalo मैं तो बच गया. पता चला है कि नेक्स्ट हवा का झोंका में मैं भी घुस गया. Right? So there is nothing like मैं बच गया. That is why we should use our upper compartment in issuing thoughts after a lot of thought behind it. सोचते वक्त ही, so ये कितना, see how much we in our materialistic life, how much we don't understand these parameters, but in reality, it is the wisdom that has been thrust into us over the years, and it is only today coming to a stage where we are able to comprehend what it is and actually link it. Till now, at least, I mean, whatever I thought I used to feel, ye hoga, nahi hoga, chalega. Lekin soch liya. But there is a pattern in which we can energize it against us or for us. No going and sitting in a mandir saying, "Mai bach gaya," is going to work. जैसे करनी वैसे भरनी. That is what is going to be the practical side of things. And then let us see further in terms of the God and what it is, right? We are talking about the wrath of God. There is nothing like it. It is only a desire. But it is again what prevails there is law of thought as destiny. Let us see now, right? Is there any faith in what we call faith in justice that plays a role that we need to remember? Besides the fear of God, the fear of the wrath or vengeance of God, and in addition to the desire for mercy, there is in man a hope or a faith in justice and adjustment. This expectation and faith is neither understood nor seen, but inherent. This inherent faith in justice is self-existent in the doer of the man. It blossomed when the AIA was raised to be a triune self, right? But to evolve this faith, it requires some crisis in which man finds thrown upon himself by
not evolve, to evoke.
Sir?
Evoke this.
Sorry. Sorry. But to evoke this faith, it requires a crisis. Which one? Okay. The faith in justice is part of the intuition of immortality, which persists in the heart of man, despite his agnosticism and materialism and adverse conditions which harden him. Right. So what is he talking about? Here he says that when we are going through, let us say, a troubled time, man rests his faith in a feeling of there has to be some justice somewhere. Where is the justice going to come from? Though he may say that God will take care of all these things, right? There is an element of faith that is well within his system, which says that there is going to be justice. Right? If I have done something which is wrong, it may get corrected. Or my thoughts will have a way that it will manifest and become positive because of that faith. Right? And that faith is going to be also manifesting wide intuitions that we may have.
So this is what we always say ना कि जो किया है वो यहीं पे भुगत के जाना है. Usually I have heard this.
No, what you are saying is correct. लेकिन अगर वो इस जन्म में adjust नहीं हुआ तो हमारे पास बाद में आएगा वो.
True.
That is the only additional. That is the additional connotation. See, what he is also telling us is in our approach, we learn about karma.
Yeah.
Whereas that karma in this explanation is basically our thought. not necessarily action.
Yes.
The thought, see, karma mein you have thought, speech, action, all those things. Whereas here we are very clearly saying that your karma is by virtue of your thought, and your destiny happens to be balancing that thought. In reality, that is how it is going to come. You go to God, you think of justice, you don't think of justice, whichever way you go and spend your time, you are going to be afflicted by the parameter of the thought coming and biting back at you. Right? So now let us see the intuition of immortality persists in the heart of man. What is this? So the intuition of immortality is the underlying knowledge that the doer comes into being in the eternal, not in time that it has fallen into time, or I mean, not in time that it has fallen into. Time that man is able to live and will live through the seeming injustice that is imposed upon him, and that he will live to right the wrongs which he has done. So this is the intuition side of things, right? How is that manifesting? The idea of justice, innate in the heart of man, the idea of justice, innate in the, it's got repeated, in the heart of man is the one thing which saves him from cringing, from breaking down for the favor of a wrathful God. The idea of justice causes a man to look fearlessly into another's eye, even though he may be conscious that he must suffer for a wrong he has done. The fear of the wrath and vengeance of the God, desire for mercy in the eternal justice of things. These are evidences of the doer's recognition of the destiny of humanity. So what are we saying here? Here, basically, so now let's go back to the beginning. See, first of all, a thought that has got issue has to get balanced. Are you all with me? There is no different path that is possible. Mr. Raji, want to say something?
No. I'm just saying that, yes, we understood.
Right. So this thought, whether you bring in a God that you have created or not, is of no consequence. To save you from it, he doesn't have the powers. Can you think of another reason why we may say that he doesn't have powers? In our earlier discussion, we have been through that.
We do not put much of energy into it.
No.
Because it is not meeting that foreplane of, exteriorization to happen.
Maybe, maybe not. But law of thought as destiny pervades all beings.
No partiality.
Whether they are human beings, they are living, they are dead, they are occupants of the realm of permanence, or they are the intelligence themselves. There is no exception. So thought is that powerful. And all these, what we discussed now, my God will save me and this and that, All these are what man has created as a way of trying to come out, and those are the reasons why he does not subscribe to the reality of thoughts being the entities that are defining the destiny. Okay? Whether it is God, whether it is any other form. So I have not made any notes for section 5 and 6. We will read from the book and then discuss. Is that okay? Priya ma'am?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Will you be able to read, or you will
Yes,
find
sir.
it?
If you're sharing screen, I'll read, sir.
No, I will share this. Once.
I don't have physical copy.
No, that's okay. I will share. One second. Let me make it large enough for visibility. Because I didn't get time to do. Who is sharing? Kanchan, you don't share. I will do the sharing.
Just check it, sir.
Huh? What happened? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So now he is talking about the original sin, the story behind it.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Section 5. The story of original sin. The story of original sin is not without basis. It is a fable which conceals some true traditions. One of these has to do with the procreation of the bodies of human beings. Many events are covered by this mythology. The doers who were affected by the events feel a truth under the story of original sin. The details of the story are in some ways related to the original events, but are twisted, inaccurate, and childish. Nevertheless, the story has power because doers are conscious of truths which are concealed in it. The naive story covers a history of disquieting results. The use of the procreative power was the original sin. The use of the procreative power was the original sin.
ये
The result
procreative power
following-
क्या है सर?
Regeneration. बच्चों को पैदा
Regeneration.
करना.
Procreative is
Reproduction.
giving birth. Reproduction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reproduction.
Okay.
So the use of the procreative power was the original sin. The result following the procreative act was to give to the human race the tendency to unlawful procreation. And this tendency was one of the means of bringing on ignorance and death in the world. The penalty of the original sin of the doer is that they are now dominated by that which they originally refused to govern. I'll read once more. The penalty of the original sin of the doer is that they are now dominated by that which they originally refused to govern. When they could govern,
they didn't want to govern recreation. I mean, this reproduction. That is what he is saying here.
What do you mean by govern?
They didn't manage. See, they let go. They let God procreating without govern how you procreate, why you procreate, etc.
Exactly. They didn't want to as part of the destiny.
See, just let me just a little
means not like not having laws that cover that like that way. Not having rules.
Can I interrupt this? See, let us look at it. This part of it, though it is true for all, this part of it, the reason is based on the Old Testament only, the original sin. So all the Abrahamic religions, the Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, are based on the Old Testament, where there is a story of Adam and Eve, okay, who committed a sin in procreating. This is the mythology, right?
Correct.
What he says, why this mythology came up, believe is, see, they believe, by the way, I'll come back to our philosophy a little later. They believe that even when you are supposed to control how you procreate. That's what they mean by govern. How much you procreate, but if you see that Old Testament, so and so begat so and so begat, some always begat endlessly. And that they see is the original sin. Now, Hindu philosophy does not have this mythology of the Old Testament. They accepted procreation as a natural process. But where they don't call it original, their sin comes is when they compare them to nature, they say they could have also managed how you do this. That's why they talked about celibacy, brahmachari, and then the vanavasa, etc. Many didn't follow, though they didn't call original sin, but the guilt comes from there again. Though they don't call it, that's what. So in this particular, we should look at it in the context of the Old Testament only. Okay.
Correct. No, I agree. I also get it clearly. Yeah.
Yes, sir. The penalty of the original sin of the doer is that they are now dominated by that which they originally refused to govern. When they could govern, they would not. Now they would govern, they cannot. One proof of that ancient sin is present with every human in the sorrow that follows an act of mad desire, which, even against his reason, he is driven to commit. Another evidence is the existence on earth of what today is spoken of as the lower human races. Another evidence is the existence on earth of what today is spoken of as the lower human races. What do you mean by lower human races?
Follow or ignorant people who just follow, like live like animals. That's what it means.
Okay, like that.
Yeah.
Okay. This and other events which underlie the legend of original sin have consequences which reach the present day. They all come from times when doers knew right from wrong and were therefore responsible. They could not stand still but had to go on or back one way or the other. They had to decide. And they gave in to the, excuse me, just a second. And they gave in to the temptation of pleasure. They had to decide and they gave in to the temptation of pleasure. They now give way to sensation and assent to their desires. They look into darkness rather than into the light. Their destiny has followed them through the ages. It has led them deeper into wrong until now the degree of doers in human bodies. It has led them deeper into wrong until now the degree of doers in human bodies is that of, I'm not getting the, where to punctuate this 1 minute. Their destiny has followed them through the ages. Okay. It has led them deeper into wrong deeper into wrong. I think there should be a pause there. Until now, the degree of doers in human bodies is that of sense-bound doers. Their feelings and desires are ruled and enfeebled by sensations, and the light of the intelligence is obscured in them. They are dimly conscious of events for which they were responsible. This is one of the reasons why the doctrine of original sin has found a response in the hearts of so many. But the origin of the story of original sin was when the doer in its perfect body was in the realm of permanence. There, in the trial test for bringing its feeling and desire into balanced union, it failed. Therefore, it came into this world of birth and death, and it periodically re-exists in a man body or in a woman body.
So here he is actually giving shape to the role of feeling and desire. And the blind faith in the mythological story, instead of understanding the messages that are hidden in that story. Now, right through the initial few topics of the book, he takes us through the start of the universe is having everything in perfect balance. Right? Everything is in the realm of permanence, where the body, the knower, the thinker, the doer, who are in that immortal physical body, they are all completely balanced and living their life wide that balanced state. Then, from the realm of intelligence, because the progression of man is through all the world's phases, etc., he moves on to the intelligence, and in the intelligence there are two major milestones or two locations where he lives. On the intelligent, he becomes the triune self. Once the triune self, all the matter inside it is perfectly balanced. What is the matter inside the triune self? Knower, thinker, doer, along with a perfectly balanced immortal body. When that balance is sustained, that balance is maintained, right? How is it maintained? There is a frequent testing that happens from the intelligence, realm of intelligence, which is occupied by, if we bring in our concept, we can say that is the Shiva. Not the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, which is the knower, thinker, doer, but it is the Shiva, the ultimate. But he keeps testing these triune selves for their balance. If that balance fails, they have to purify themselves by going through this rigmarole. He is taking a scenario from there, and then he is explaining. What is he saying? Right? They all come from times when doers knew right from wrong and were therefore responsible. They could not stand still, but to go on back, to go on or back, one way or the other. Which is this? This is the imbalance of knower and the imbalance within the doer, which is nothing but feeling and desire. Either they succumb to feeling and desire or they are able to manage it. Now, when they yield to the temptation, because it started giving them, they started thinking that it was a pleasure rather than it is right or wrong. The pleasure got over them, and that became the imbalance. They took into darkness rather than into the light. Their destiny was has followed them through the ages. Which is this destiny? This yielding to temptation or able to manage it, right? It has led them deeper into wrong until now. The degree of doers in human body is that the degree is, what is the meaning by this? The degree of humans in, the doers in the human body, what does it mean? Anybody?
The consciousness, the progress.
Exactly. The level to his, the degree to which he is aware of that. What is that? The balance of thinking, desire and feeling. Jagdish sir, anything to add there?
What you said is perfectly right. See, but the fact that you are born into the world because of the imbalance, and that is what written until you go through a cycle of, like you say, ultimately balance again and go back. Okay, after that, yeah. And which is why we call them such as sin. The sin is that you are letting desire feeling take over your progress, right? You are gone by. That is where the concept of the sin comes in, that you are ignorant and you are sinful. And if you look at, again, coming back to, therefore, those who follow Jesus Christ just said love. He never used the word sin. The only time he used the word sinner was when, people were stoning that lady, and he said that the person who has not committed any sin throw the first stone. That's the only, he's very kind of hints that all of you can be sinners. He never said all you are sinners. But the followers, including Islam, believe that they have to be saved from the sin. Jesus Christ never said. He only talked about love. He never talked about saving anybody. Because
there is only one context of saving the soul also that he explains in this book.
Only because, no, that came later on. That came not Saint Paul. It's much later on, not in the gospel. The only time he says sinners is, just to give you an example, only those who can pelt a stone who are not committed a sin. You must understand the word sin in a different context there. They have not done anything wrong. That's what he says. Let them throw the first stone. And that's when people hesitate, right? And then, of course, later on, there are various stories about that and how that is wrong, blah, blah, blah. These are human beings who don't understand it, right? In our case also, if you look at some concept of this desire coming over, comes in every human being. Classic example is the Mahabharata. Even Dharmaraya is supposed to be full of dharma. What is his sin? Two major sins he commits. His weakness for gambling. So his weakness for gambling. Second thing is he's prepared to prepared to take it. He objectifies as a wife, Draupadi, right? Objectifies as a commodity and then gives it as a bet to this in the sin. So this is where so even though we don't call it sin, that this exists because of desire.
Actually, that is the connotation in which we need to look at even here.
Yes, the desire, where the fact that we are born here is because there is this imbalance, where after desire and feeling, instead of controlling it, we have become slaves to desire.
And we have yielded to the so-called temporary pleasure or whatever we may call.
Yes. Even the so-called Dharmaraya cannot. Yes. Also for that, right? Yeah.
So, see how beautifully he has said. They look into darkness rather than into light. Their destiny has followed them through the ages. It has led them deeper into wrong until now. The degree of the doers in human bodies is that of sense-bound doers. Their feelings and desires are ruled and enfeebled by sensations, and the light of intelligence is obscured. That means, in simple language, if we are to take this and explain, he has lost the sense of balance.
Vishwamitra.
Vishwamitra story. I don't know in which muhurt I gave that came out of my mind. That is explaining so many scenarios. Right?
He got finally recognized in this book, through this book, sir. More recognition.
I hope it doesn't go to up to Vishwamitra and he shows his anger on me first and then all the rest. Right? So, but what is happening is when he is also making another point, though he has taken this story, when we are seeking sense bound pleasures, when we are seeking sense bound pleasures, right? We lose the discrimination of right and wrong. That is the significant point he is saying in his own language. Sir, would you agree?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Correct. So now that is what he is trying to highlight as the original sin, right? And the light of intelligence is obscured in them. Light of intelligence is their control over all these things because they are not aware about it. They are dimly conscious of events for which they were responsible. This is one of the reasons why the doctrine of original sin has found a response in the hearts of so many. But the origin of the story of original sin was when the doer in its perfect body was in the realm of permanence. That the trial test for bringing its feeling and desire into balanced union, it failed. Therefore, it came into this world of birth and death, and it periodically re-exists in a man body or in a woman body. Okay. Now, for some of the people who have joined for the first time, I don't know whether they are finding this helpful or they need help with it. I can share the link to the earlier recordings. All of them are available in YouTube. Okay. Some of you who have joined today, have you followed some bit of what we discussed? Please help me understand that. Dina ma'am?
Yes, sir. Trying to understand.
Okay. See, the background to what we have discussed is that our thoughts. Sir, I will try to summarize it so that they can come up to speed to some extent at least.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
So, see, there is the objective of this book is, first of all, we start with what is the universe. The simplest way that we can understand the universe is by creating a picture in our mind of this kind. One sec, let me just search that out so that you people can at least get some. See, for the purpose of our discussion, right? Just give me a minute. Everything is going against. Right? So, Let me share this picture. Keep this in mind because we will keep referring to this picture a number of times in our discussion. So, as far as for the purpose of understanding this book, the universe is a collection of two sides, what we call the unintelligent or nature side and the intelligent or the triune self, the realm of permanence and the realm of intelligence. So on this side we have got one component which is on the left side of it, which is the nature side, and then we have got what we call the realm of permanence, etc., which is categorized into four spheres: the sphere of fire, air, water, and earth. But the sphere itself consists of four words, which we call the core elements that we can presume here are fire, air, water, and earth. Okay. Now, these words, these spheres have got four words within them, and these four words are again those attributed to fire, air, water, and earth. But they are called, fire is represented by the light world, the air is represented by the life world, the water is represented by the form world, and earth is represented by the physical world. Within the physical world, within these four worlds, the universe also consists of four planes, one which is part of each of their corresponding spheres and worlds, which is the light plane, the life plane, the form plane, and the physical plane. The physical plane has got four substates, which is known as the radiant solid, airy solid, fluid solid, and solid solid. Okay. And then the entities have to get refined in passing through all these stages before they acquire complete maturity, or they are cleaned and brought to the same level of consciousness that is ultimate in the universe. Now, for making that happen, universe has a plan and universe has a purpose. Now, this plan and purpose are achieved through this human body, and they are governed by only one law, in which all nature matter, wherever it starts, has to go through this rigmarole of passing through each level of completion and coming to the final state. Final state is you are back with your where you started. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let us go further. But man in his evolution, right, has come out of his state of this. Man has not accepted or fully subscribed to this thought of it being the destiny, and that law has not been understood. Here, why we are not accepting is this entire chapter. This chapter takes us through the process of thought, for the thought to manifest, it has got 4 stages to go through. But man, because it is pulling him out of his comfort zone, he doesn't want to accept. He wants to create a God, a religion. Now, why did this religion come about? The objective of religion and the objective of this law of thought are tied together by means of morals. Religion is nothing but it is supposed to be nothing but the thoughts in action. I mean the thoughts prescribing the morality also. It is the language of religion, is the language that is supposed to implement the law of thought. But for whatever reasons, whether it could be the administrator, but no, not whatever reasons. Now, this administering this law of thought, which is the destiny, was given to certain people. In the right sense, the occupants of the realm of permanence only should administer. But man started feeling that those people's administration was not in line with what he wanted, so he started creating a story saying that God is unfaithful, rich become richer, poor become poorer, and so on. He started coming out with his own doctrines. These doctrines, right, were all by the administrators and the way they were administering. Those experience is the one that has manifested as all these objections, which man then started looking for how to get over that. That is when he started creating gods. Since God is nothing but a manifestation of the man's creation, he created with his own convenience. Then it became the what is called the might is right type of a scenario. And that gave birth to gods of many kinds, one kind or many kinds. And that God, though he is supposed to be managed by under the purview of the collective laws of thoughts, which is the actual destiny for the progress of the universe. What people have done is he has given them a state which says that, please, my God, I will do something, you start taking care of me. They started subscribing to that kind of a scenario. And that is proving to be counterproductive. Right? Now, today what we covered was, what was the reason out of this God-related stuff, why people are not able to subscribe to that scenario. Okay. There we went through the entire scheme of things in which, first of all, God did not, right? We found that all thoughts that we release have to get balanced. And there is nothing like it will not get balanced. But in our comfort zone came the theme saying that God is going to do what I want. God is going to give me what I want. And if he doesn't, then I don't accept that. With that kind of a thought, not realizing that our own thought is responsible in its manifestation, we have created our own understanding of what is really happening. There we have gone through the scenarios which have taken us through the fact that all thoughts have to be balanced, but suppose they are not balanced in a life, they come back to us, and that will happen. God has got both wrath and mercy, but this is our creation. Please understand that. Right? And then we are going through this scenario. I mean, we went through the scenario saying that, however, whatever happens, there is an inherent tie down to faith. There is a faith that all actions have got its own path of justice. That is inherent in it, and that will ultimately manifest itself. Right? Well, this far we covered, and then we went into the next section where we spoke in detail about the original sin, how we succumb to our feelings and desires. We get controlled by feelings and desires. We live in the control of feeling and desire, and that impacts the cycle of life and death, in which there are the male characteristics and female characteristics, which we call in our this one it is Prakriti and Purusha, or it happens to be the yin and yang, one dominating the other till a state of balance is achieved. Right? That is what we have covered so far. Is that clear to everyone? There will be better clarity once you go through the recordings that I will share with everyone.
Yes, yes, definitely, sir. And thanks for giving a short summary. Thank you so much. It will help us.
But this book, for every person, is justifiable. And for many of the spiritual tablet practitioners, in my opinion, this is the gospel by which administration of spiritual tablets can be done. Okay.
Sir, we all clear recently module 1.
Okay. Did I come for any of your classes?
Sorry, sir.
Did I come for giving any explanation for Dipti Noorchandani madam's class or something like that? I don't know. She asked me to attend someone. I don't know which one I attended. Anyway, so we are currently in chapter 2. We are almost at the end of chapter 3, not 2. We are in chapter 3. We are almost at the end of that. We were revising it. We will be next session. Unfortunately, tomorrow I am not there in station. If someone wants to take this session, I would happily request you people. I will share the login details.
No, I think it will be better that you are there because you have the whole concept and you are organizing it. It doesn't make sense for us to. Unless people just want to gossip about this, it's fine.
No, I don't know. Maybe some people can join and help the newcomers come up to speed.
Yeah. No, I think it's better to go on one. Usually, this is the concept that leadership comes in, right?
Okay, sir. No, actually, I am traveling to Shirdi tomorrow.
Oh, great.
I have not gone anywhere in the last 2 years.
My sister had gone there last week. I believe it's pretty good now, quiet. And Darshan she could got very easily. We got direct flights from back.
We already have that qualification, no?
Quite.
Senior citizen.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And all of us who are going are senior citizens.
Okay, so you get special benefits for that, sir.
Yeah.
No,
I
no.
mean,
Recording is happening.
your
Sir,
darshan
we are still on
stress free.
Sir, recording is happening. Recording.
recording. That I was just about to say. Recording.
Okay.